Welcome to the worst nightmare of all. Reality.
Explore the lesser-known stories of our unknown world. Join the pursuit of the paranormal with Ash and Greg.
Welcome this week to Pursuit the Paranormal. Today we are joined by Cristina Gomez, a very busy lady in the ufology world at the minute, with a host of her own YouTube shows and on the KUNX radio show. You've got Shifting the Paradigm, you've got Mysteries with a History, which you co-host with Jimmy Church, and Strange Paradigms, sort of like kind of a news show. So welcome along, Cristina. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, guys. I am so excited to speak with you, and I feel like we have a lot to cover today. Not just about me, but just about the whole topic. So much. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, so much happening right now as well, isn't there?
Yeah, just in the last couple of hours, we had them pictures released by the James Webb telescope.
They're amazing.
Exactly.
Have you been looking at them?
Oh, of course. Are you joking? That was so exciting. And while many people might have considered it like, oh, this is kind of boring, it's just pictures of space, it's pictures of space. That's like the best part of it. And what's really amazing about the James Webb Space Telescope is that this is going to be really the first telescope that's going to look for signs of life by detecting planets' atmospheres. And yes. That's a big news. And I feel like now more than ever, it's the best time to have this conversation, to get scientists and politicians involved. And this is no longer really considered a fringe topic, the UFO phenomenon. We're not the crazies anymore. We're not the outcasts. Instead, people come to us and they're like, hey, I have this question on this, or I had this sighting, or what do you say when it comes to science and UFOs? So we're in an amazing point in time, and we are so lucky to be somewhat knowledgeable in the field. Now, I do want to mention that absolutely nobody is an expert when it comes to UFOs, and anyone tells you that they're an expert, they are lying to you. That's a flat out lie. Okay. So while none of us are, in a sense, professionals, and that's in quotation marks, or experts, we can attempt to be as knowledgeable as possible with the information that we have at this point in time. But I do believe that is going to progress pretty soon.
Do you think that this comes at a very timely point? Because NASA have just said that they're going to start independent studies into UFOs as well, and then all of a sudden we get these amazing photographs of deep space, and like you just mentioned, looking for signs of life and atmosphere. Do you think maybe that was quite well timed?
Absolutely. As I've told myself for years now, even before being into this topic, is everything is as it should be. Everything has its own timeline to go through. And so when we're looking at this topic, we're looking at NASA releasing the pictures. We're looking at NASA stating, oh, now we're going to have our own UFO research group. Then you have the UAPTF, which is now the AOI MSG. And I'm not going to say all those words because, oh my goodness, is that a mouthful. And then we're hearing other countries, oh, we also have a UFO task force in our country, such as Japan and China. So it seems that, yes, everything is timely. And maybe, just maybe, those that are controlling this information might think, maybe humanity is ready, or maybe it's we simply cannot keep this under the rug anymore. It's gonna explode at some point in time. Let's at least attempt to control the information instead of it going out of hand and everyone going insane. I've spoken to a good amount of people in the field that say, if information does come out that either there is intelligent life in our universe or that we are being visited, that overall humanity isn't going to really be that shocked. It's going to be like, oh, it's just another day in the life of, and then, insert your name, right? Because since, let's say, and I'm roughly estimating here, let's say since the 1980s onward, people might believe that we're beginning to be primed with the TV shows, with the movies, with the sci-fi books, even with certain conversations that people have in school. For instance, I'm in college right now, and there was a semester where the UFO topic arose several times in my courses, and in
Wow.
subjects where it didn't really need to be in there, such as geology and philosophy, to be specific. And I'm thinking, okay, this is one of two things. Either one, I'm so involved in the topic and I'm seeing it everywhere, or or the second option is maybe they're just trying to slow drip this conversation to make it more mainstream. I don't have the answer to that. But as you said, Greg, everything's kind of falling into place. And all we can do is just ask more questions of why.
That's amazing. Like, just be in college and all of a sudden there's, today we're going to be talking about UFOs. I must have been buzzing when that was happening.
I was taken aback. I'm like, whoa, hold on, screenshot.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So obviously, like, this whole sort of modern sort of era now sort of started in 2017 with the New York Times piece. So you must be pretty young when that came out. Was that something that you were aware of when this sort of all kicked off, or did you come into it a bit later?
So in 2017, I was in high school. Okay. I did not care about UFOs. I didn't care about the news. I didn't care about politics. I just wanted to freaking graduate. I'm like, I do not like my high school. I just want to get out of here, move out of the house, and just live my life. So when the New York Times item came out in 2017, I was oblivious to it completely. So when I had joined the field, let's say in 2019, 2020 is when I really started to get serious, 2021 even. That's when I had to do a lot of catch up. I'm like, oh my gosh, all this happened in a short time frame. I don't know anything about it. None of my peers talked about it in school. What the heck? So when I had entered college, I had a lot of free time, and I thought, I want to get serious about this. I'm really fascinated with the topic of UFOs, with really anything that's just kind of classified as bizarre. I love that kind of stuff. I want to really have this conversation for real. So I'd be walking to class, and I'd look at one of my peers and I'm like, hey, so what do you think about aliens? And they look at me and they're like, Christina, it's 8 a.m. I haven't had my coffee yet. Class hasn't even started. Do not ask me these crazy questions. Ask me when I'm under some kind of substance or when I'm drinking, and then maybe we can have this conversation. Until then, do not speak to me about this stuff. And I was thinking, I want to have this conversation for real. I really want to attempt to understand what the heck is going on. All these things that fall under the category of unexplained. I want to understand and then attempt to explain it to those that don't understand it, right? But it was very difficult in my area, right? My environment, it was very difficult. Then I had joined UFO Twitter, and I'm like, oh my gosh, all these people, wow. And then you had like the crazy trolls and the really hateful people. But on the other side of UFO Twitter, you get all these really fantastic people that do want to attempt to help the overall public to understand the topic. And then I said, I want to make my own YouTube channel and touch people's lives the way it has really touched me personally, in the sense of, we are curious. We are children. We're never going to grow out of that child curiosity, no matter how old we get. And, when we become adults, we're like, all right, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to have coffee. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to come home. I'm going to watch TV. I'm going to go to bed, and then do that cycle again. And you don't usually have that sense of wonderment like you used to when you were a child. It was, I need to feed my family. I need to go to work. I need to go to sleep. And there's so much that we're simply not seeing, that I believe that if we began just to pay attention to it, life would be so much more colorful instead of the black and white boredom. So that's kind of where I am with all of this, and with the shows that I have, such as Shifting the Paradigm, Mysteries with the History, and even Strange Paradigms. I don't want people to lose that child curiosity, because it's going to fuel you. It's going to keep you young. as well. Okay, you don't have to go to surgery. You just got to be curious, and you'll be young forever. But also to talk to people in my generation, because I truly believe that those that are 20s, 30s, and younger, they are the future politicians, the future military officials, the future teachers, the future lawyers. And if we can educate them, we will have a bright future.
100%. I grew up, I'm a bit older than both of you, and so I've seen it in the 80s, the 90s, and the last sort of 20 years as well. And conversations that I had with peers and my friends' parents as well would be a completely different conversation to what I could have now. Like you said, there wouldn't have been a time when I could walk into like high school or secondary school in the UK and say, what about aliens? So go, what, little green men? Because that's what it was known as, little green men, when I was growing up. And I used to sit and have conversations with one of my best friends' mums late at night when I used to stay around there when I was younger. We were talking about all this kind of stuff, and she was the only one that kind of helped feed my curiosity. So do you find that your peer group and everything now are, and your sort of age, are really accepting of it? Because back when I was, say, your age, absolutely was not. Absolutely was not.
It's not a question anymore of what if. They're just kind of like, oh, so are there extraterrestrial intelligence outside of our planet? Yes. And that's kind of where the conversation ends. That's where it stops. There is no fascination of people having experiences of talking about different races. There is no interest in the history of it, of previous crash cases, right? Like crash retrievals as well, or contactee experiences. There is no interest in the scientific aspect either, or even what NASA is doing publicly. There is none of that. It's just, are there aliens? Yes. End of conversation. But what I do find rather interesting, and what I've begun to notice a lot more recently, is that when I'm at a public event or just like outside of my home, let's say at a mall or something, there's going to be at least one person that's going to have alien merch, an alien t-shirt, sometimes an alien tattoo. And I'm thinking, you're going to have that on for life. You better freaking believe in aliens. You. All right, Greg. So when I do see that, I muster up the courage to walk up to them, because I'm socially awkward in many respects. So I kind of walk up and I'm like, hi. And keep in mind, I'm 5 feet tall. I don't know how tall it is in meters, but I'm very short. I'm very, very short. So I walk up and I'm like, hello. So what are your thoughts on aliens? And they're like, yeah, they're so cool. And I'm like, okay, cool in what way? Dude, I don't know, but they're so much better than humans. And I'm like, have you met one? Nah, man, but let me just tell you, like, they're the best. And I'm like, that's a start. At least you're interested, but let's give you a foundation to that. Because some people are going to disagree with you, people that have alleged alien abduction accounts where they're like, no, aliens are not great. Right. So again, it's not a question of their existence. It's a question of the history and even the future search for these entities. But I will say it is pretty entertaining to speak to people that wear this type of thing. And I'm just like, so, like, what do you know about them? Absolutely nothing. And that's okay. And that's where we fill in the gaps. Our podcasts, our shows, TV shows, movies, documentaries, that's where they fill in the gaps to give people a foundation. No matter if you agree with the person hosting it or if you agree with all the information that's presented, it's just to touch to pique their curiosity, for them to begin to do their own research. So it doesn't matter how many views we get, how many listens we get. We just need to affect that one person that didn't care about it and now they do. Well, now they have the rest of their lives to get interested in it, and then maybe to push it forward to the public with whatever job or with whatever status they have. And I think that what we're doing is so important and also so exciting, because we are setting a foundation for the future.
I know it's a passion of yours to engage the younger sort of generation, your generation. And like when we look at our stats, I think only 7% of our listeners are under 24. You mentioned there about documentaries and podcasts and stuff to give that initial sort of interest into it. Is that where the focus is, or how can we sort of reach the younger people, do you think?
It's definitely the newer social media, TikTok, Instagram, Reels, YouTube Shorts, Discord. Twitter and Facebook are kind of more gauged to the older audience, which is nothing wrong with that. They are a lot easier to use than maybe, like TikTok, which is a black hole. You start and you can't stop. Oh my goodness, is it horrible? I've deleted it off my phone so many times because I become so horribly addicted. But I think that's the best way to reach them is to gain a platform on there. And I've kind of been working on my TikTok, and I start on it, I abandon it, I come back, because I know that there's so much potential there. It's just kind of hard getting started. But once you start there, you're able to touch such a younger audience, literally from the age of 8 or 9 onwards. That's how young these people that use the app are. And then they go as far out as between the 30s, 40s, and 50s now. But that's my advice, is literally use as much social media platforms as you can. It is incredibly exhausting. It's not easy to manage, and I'm an example of that. I can't manage all of them, but I have the ambition to do so.
It's kind of frustrating as well sometimes, because like we have our TikTok, and I had mine sort of for UFO stuff, and I think I've had like 5, 6, 7,000 views and stuff on some of the videos, which is my sort of videos based around sort of the facts as much as we know it, sort of the news, the information that we have. And then you see accounts that are just clearly fake videos, clickbait videos, and they have followers and views in the millions. It's just like it's just frustrating, because you think there's millions of people that are clicking like or sharing that clearly CGI or hoax video or pitch or video flares, and then the true information gets thousands rather than millions. It's just, so the interest is there. Like say, like with guy with like an alien tattoo or an alien T-shirt, there's that sort of initial interest, but it's getting past the aliens are cool into the actual what is happening, not just that's a cool video of a spaceship that's coming across the trees. It's just frustrating, like when you just see they're the popular accounts or the fake accounts. So that's just one frustration I found when trying to sort of break into the TikTok sort of spectrum.
I completely agree. It makes me want to pull out my hair of like, why are you watching this literal garbage? That's all it is. And then we spend so much time really trying to get the facts out there to remove that stigma and to make it a serious topic. And sometimes we just don't do well. But that's why, and you're probably going to hear this 1,000 times, but it's like, that's why you need to persevere, but also to understand what kids or teens and adults kind of want to see. They want to see short, fun, colorful, good lighting type of stuff. And then from there, it's like trial and error. Once you get that 1 million video views, right? You just got to keep repeating that exact same format 1,000 times. It sounds kind of dumb, but it works. And I think that's kind of the frustration when dealing with these newer social media platforms, where you only have someone's attention for like 3 seconds. That's it. 3 seconds, which is about the same as a goldfish. And that is depressing. It's very, very depressing. But that's just how it is right now. So I think that's where we, the content creators, need to be flexible instead of like in our own ways, no matter how frustrating it is when these crappy CGI videos are getting millions of views. And I know exactly what you're talking about, Ash, because I see it. I see it on a daily basis on TikTok, and I'm just like, I'm going to end up going bald. I already don't have that much hair, so going less is going to be like a raccoon, right, of some kind. But we just got to keep pushing, and we have to be that voice of truth when there's so much lies and disinformation out there.
I just wanted to go back to a point that you raised a bit earlier. You said about there was two things, that there's people potentially controlling the information that we're seeing to prime us like a drip feed. So my first question is, who do you think they are? And the second one, that you said that NASA publicly, we were talking about NASA and their public side. What do you think NASA are doing off the record, as it were? Because obviously this UFO thing that they've got going on is they will have had some kind of interest, and you see people talking about ISS feeds drop in, doctored photos of the moon and space, and it's clear you can see it on the NASA websites where something's been or there's something in the picture has been covered up, whether it just be an artifact or a natural anomaly. But I just wondered what your thoughts were on what that non-public side of NASA are looking at, if anything, and who you think is controlling the information to us, if they think we're ready for it.
In my opinion, and my knowledge is very limited, in my opinion, those that are controlling the information are those behind the curtain, those that have no name, those that the public will never know about. So to say who it is, it goes beyond the government. It goes beyond any corporation. It goes beyond anything or any name that we presently know. It goes beyond that. So to say who's really controlling it, I can't give you an answer, but what I can say, again, from my opinion alone, is that there are hands behind the curtain that are manipulating the situation. As for NASA, right, there's a lot of rumors, there's a lot of conspiracy theories of them messing with or airbrushing photos, right, with them having private meetings, with them possibly even already being in communication with aliens, or even the TRAPPIST-1 star system. Okay. So when we look at that, it seems that it's become so well known that they can go ahead and lie right in front of our faces, and no one's really going to question it because they already know that pattern. They already know that it's going to happen, that you're going to be lied to, so why push it forward? So people allow these pictures to be airbrushed, and like they're just kind of like, oh, again, all right, whatever, and things like this. It's become so prevalent in the mentality of those that have been researching this for years. They just kind of roll their eyes and they just kind of look the other way and continue their research somewhere else. They don't look at NASA anymore as a thing that would be prestigious. It's just another front, and that's it. Now, when we do look at NASA, what they have done publicly is still a lot. They've still presented a lot of information to the public. They are still releasing what missions they want to do, not just on the moon and on Mars, but also planets and moons where they believe there could be potential life due to the water that is believed to be there, such as Europa, which is unbearably exciting. There is going to be a mission sometime in the near future, and I'm looking forward to that too. When they do dig through that ice, that maybe they will find creatures, or, and I'm putting this in quotation marks, right, like bacteria, right? that goes beyond, that there is life beyond Earth, and these are exciting. But this, again, while this might be really exciting news, it's very slow. It's very we're going to start off with microbial life. Then we'll say, oh, well, now we found plants. Okay, now we found these kind of like sea-type creatures. Okay, now there is some type of intelligent life out there. What? So there is going to be a progression to get there. And I don't necessarily think That's a bad idea. We need to give everyone a foundation. Everyone needs to start slow, just like when you're dealing with babies. You can't tell them how to say onomatopoeia, right? When they don't even know how to say mom. Okay. So they need to have that foundation of the basic understandings to speak, the basic understanding to read before they can go ahead and give presentations, before they can go ahead and read a white paper, something like that. So when we're looking at NASA or other scientific organizations, you got to start slow. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I just don't like how slow it's been.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem for going back to young people again is I think the generations now are used for like instant gratification.
That's right.
Whereas like when the internet first came out, you order something online, it take weeks. And then now you can order something and get it the same day. You want to watch something, you can just stick it on Netflix and watch it straight away. So it's like, oh, this is interesting. This could be life on Venus, like that thing last year. Oh, now I don't want to wait 9 months to find out what it is. I want to know now, I guess. I mean, like I say, it is a slow process and maybe it is good, but for the attention span of the younger people, it will always be a battle on that side of it.
It's very difficult, and I'm also guilty of that. I love instant gratification where I can just type something in Google and get my answer instantaneously versus having to call someone that's knowledgeable in a topic or calling the library to place a book on hold for me, right? I mean, that's
You
horrible.
don't know what the struggle's like. You had to,
horrible.
Yeah, I used to have to go to the library for my information when I was growing up.
And keep
3
in
channels.
mind, unbelievable. And keep in mind that in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, UFO books were somewhat limited, like legitimate UFO books, not the sci-fi, not like, oh yeah, so we saw aliens. No, but like the real stuff. It was very limited, and so limited that libraries didn't really carry those books, right? So it was very difficult to be interested in the topic and to also be knowledgeable in the topic as well. Now, everything's on the internet. Absolutely almost everything. I can just go use my typing fingers and be like, well, there it is. That's all I needed. It took me 4 minutes to find the information, find the article, read it through, copy it onto a doc, and have my notes. Back in the day, take hours, if not days, if not weeks. To find what you're looking for. So we live in really amazing times where we're able to get information instantaneously, but at the same time, we are at a disadvantage because now we just expect everything to be that fast. When we just received the James Webb Space Telescope images, right? The first real non-test images that took a really long time. I was flustered, and I was flustered also when we were getting these test images of NASA's like, wait, we still want to keep our audience here. We're gonna pass you these test images back in April. Oh, we got some July 6th, but it had like this weird black dot in the middle of one of the stars, but it still looks cool, right? And then on July 11th, we're like, actually, we're gonna release a picture a day early. You're welcome. Oh yeah, I am the best. I know I'm the best, right? And while it was beautifully amazing, it wasn't amazing at the same time, right? It wasn't specific. It was just kind of like a broad photo. And then now we got these ones that were released July 12th, and you're like, okay, now we're getting somewhere, but it took a little too long.
And even then, they kept us waiting like an hour and a half yesterday. With the coming momentarily, it's like been there an hour and a half waiting for this.
And then after an hour and a half, you just saw a woman on screen, just kind of like sitting there for an extra few minutes, and I'm just thinking like, when is it gonna start?
I felt really awkward for her because she was just sat there for ages, just looking. Sort of,
and then it was only
busy doing nothing.
Right, I felt so bad for her. And then it was only 10 minutes long, and it ended so abruptly. It just like that, and I'm thinking, what? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was quite surreal, I must say. And you got Joe Biden there, and he's doing all the talking, and some other people, and then, like you say, it just sort of like, right, all the press are going now, and there's some guy just shepherding him out
Yeah.
of the room, and it was just wild.
It was more of a circus than anything when it came to that ending. I'm thinking this wasn't really done professionally. It was held by the White House, right? They did the briefing. They were the ones that released the pictures due to the permission of NASA. And then they're like, all right, we're done. Bye. And I'm like, I have no closure. What was the point of having this briefing then? If it was an hour and a half late, it was only a few minutes long, and then we got an image, but there was no real commentary to it other than, yes, we have partnered with other nations, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, and continue. And it just didn't, the whole format didn't make sense.
It is funny. Have you had any of your own UFO or paranormal experiences, either growing up or as an adult?
Yeah, I have. And they were kind of more when I was more as an adult. A lot of people have their own sightings or their own experiences when they're rather young, or some just don't have them at all, but they're really interested in the topic. And I feel extra bad for them. Like my heart goes out to them, right? I feel like, oh, bless their heart. But yes, I've had a UFO sighting. I've had a paranormal experience, and the paranormal experience is actually really funny. So I'll tell it to you. It's pretty brief, but it was my first year in college, and you know when you're a college kid, right? You're poor. You don't have money. So I had just moved into my apartment, like a really small dorm apartment, and I didn't have a vacuum. And I'm like, dude, I don't have enough money to buy a vacuum. And then I happened to sit next to this really nice, kind of weird girl, but she was nice. And I was like, hey, buddy, I only know you for like a few weeks, but is it okay if I would just like casually borrow your vacuum? She's like, absolutely no problem. Just come to my place. Because she was like a few years older than I was. Come to my place, pick up the vacuum, and just, drop it off the next day. And I'm like, dude, you're the best. You're a real clutch. Thank you so much. So it's already kind of late at night. I can't remember why I went there late. Maybe because I had school or something. I can't remember, but because it was like a few years ago now. And I come to her place, and I already felt like something was off. And at this time, this was kind of before I was really interested in the topic. So I didn't really believe in gut feelings that much. I just didn't really care for them. I'm like, gut feelings, BS, whatever. But there was something off as soon as I walked through that door of her apartment. And we end up chatting for a bit. And then she's like, all right, yeah, here's the vacuum. And I'm like, thank you so much. I'll drop it off when I'm done. She's like, no, keep it until tomorrow. And I said, okay, whatever. That's fine with me. So then I put it in the trunk of my car, and I'm driving, and I'm like, I think there's something in the car with me. Nah, there can't be. That's like my paranoia. It's late at night. The street lights they don't really work that well. They're not bright. So I'm like, nah, it's no big deal. But I had this feeling that I wasn't in the car alone. So I'm thinking, so I ended up getting home. I park, and I put the vacuum in the corner of the apartment, and I like do my other tasks and like the kitchen and stuff, kind of like prepping the house to ready to get it vacuumed. And I put the vacuum like right next. It's like I have a really, really small house, so I have like the bathrooms like right next to the front door. And I used to have this really big glass candle, like it was a big like pound candle. It was in a glass container, so like it was heavy. And I had it like right on top of the toilet. And I'm in the kitchen, and then I hear the glass candle fall, and I'm like, all right, whatever. I walk back to the bathroom, just put the candle back. I'm like, it's not a big deal. And then I'm back in the kitchen, and I hear it fall again. And I'm thinking, there is absolutely no explanation for this. This does not make sense. This candle is fat. It's heavy. There is no way it can just fall. That's not possible. So I'm like, let me go to my television knowledge and let me sprinkle some salt. All right. We don't want any evil entities here. So I like sprinkle salt inside of the candle. I sprinkle salt at the front door, and I'm like, I'm safe now. Everything is fine because salt is my savior, because TV told me it was when I have paranormal issues. I was wrong. I was very wrong. So I just felt very uneasy. I felt very uneasy because I'm living alone. I didn't like how the house felt. So I'm thinking, okay, typing, YouTube, play music that will get rid of evil entities. Right? I mean, no harm, no foul. No harm, no foul.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? So I start playing this like type of music that I found on YouTube. I had like 1 million views or something like that. And then I hear this screeching sound come out of the speakers. And again, there's no explanation for that because the music didn't have screeching sound in it, right? That wouldn't make sense. I ended up playing it back a little later and there was none of that. So now I was freaking out and I'm like, there's something in here and I'm not ready for this. I don't have any knowledge on the paranormal. I don't know anything about demons. Like what the heck? So I grab the vacuum. I don't even vacuum the house that night. I put it in a storage unit, which is like right outside of my apartment. I put it in there and I'm like, look, buddy, you're going to stay there until I return you back to this girl. Okay. I'm going to have a good night's sleep. You're not going to bother me. You're not going to stay with me. You're going to be in that storage until I drop you off. I call the girl and I'm like, hey, look, please let me return your vacuum. She's like, no, don't worry. Just give it back to me tomorrow in the morning or in the afternoon. I'm like, I don't care how late it is. I'm going to return your vacuum because I can't. I cannot function. She's like, nah, it's okay. Like, just don't worry about it. So I kept it throughout the night. The first thing in the morning when the sun came up, I dropped off her vacuum and I never spoke to her again.
Did it all stop after that?
What did you say? I'm sorry.
Did it stop once you got?
Oh yeah. I didn't have any issues after that. There was nothing wrong. I think it was attached to the vacuum and it didn't stick with me because I told it and I'm like, look, buddy, look here, kiddo. You're not going to chill with me. We're not friends.
It sounds like a horror film.
With the
The start
vacuum.
of a horror film. This vacuum, all of a sudden you bring this entity inside a vacuum into the house and...
Dude, it could have been like Ghostbusters. Maybe she was a Ghostbuster and she vacuumed in the entity and it was in there.
Annabelle the cleaner.
There you go, exactly.
I'm just making a few notes on that script.
Yeah, I want some royalties on that.
No.
You got to use a Henry Hoover, so it's actually got like a face and everything on the vacuum.
I mean, looking back at that story now, it's incredibly funny. I think it's a hilarious story. At that moment, it was not funny. It was terrifying. But if that were to happen again, I would know how to handle it a lot better now that I've interviewed a good amount of paranormal investigators. I've done research on things like this where there is absolutely no need to worry. And one quote that I've held really dear to my heart by someone that I respect dearly is, you don't need to fear the dead. You need to fear the living. And so when people have these ghost encounters or these even demonic encounters, which are a lot rarer than people understand, you shouldn't necessarily be scared of them because for the most part, they can't harm you. But people, they hurt you every single day.
100%. So what do you think ghosts are, spirits are? Do you think they are people who have passed over? Or do you think there's something else? Because we speak to people, we spoke to many, many different people across different subjects, and there's a bit of a range. So there's a possible crossover to aliens, fallen angels, demons, that kind of thing. And I just wondered what your take was on what you think ghosts or spirits are.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's all of the above, and that shouldn't be a cop-out answer. But because we're still just not familiar, we don't really understand the whole grasp of the paranormal. They can be literally anything. Now, I've asked this question to every single one of my guests on Shifting the Paradigm, and that is, do you believe there is a convergence between the UFO phenomenon and the paranormal? Because it seems that there's a lot of similarities between the two. And if you remove the labels of alien abductions, of ghost encounters, of phantoms, right? If you just kind of remove the labels, they have very similar characteristics, incredibly similar. So I think that many times UFO encounters can be mistaken for ghost hauntings and vice versa. It's very possible. And could they also be interdimensionals? Would we classify ghosts as interdimensionals? Because they're not really in our realm fully, because if they were, we'd be able to see them. But they're not, but they are able sometimes to manipulate objects and to have disembodied voices, but that requires an intense amount of energy to do so. Does that mean that they're in our realm, or just one that's just a very light one on the other side? So there's a lot of questions. There's a lot more that I want to understand when it comes to this. Again, my knowledge is very limited when it comes to the paranormal. I do want to understand more, but my main focus is the UFO phenomenon. But it seems that they could be one and the same. And it's very difficult to say. So I love speaking to those that are knowledgeable in these fields, have it be the paranormal investigators, UFO investigators, scientists, mathematicians, whoever has an interest in it. I want to speak to them because they're going to have a different viewpoint. They're going to have a different perspective from their understanding, from their research that I've never heard before, because I'm so new to the field that to me, everything is new. Everything is fascinating. Everything is awesome. I'm running on flowers and rainbows all day, every day, because everything is new to me, because I haven't been in the field that long. So what are ghosts? I think that they could possibly be everything that we don't understand. Could fairies be ghosts, for instance? Could, let's say that there are certain cryptids that people believe in. Can they also be ghosts when they die? Right? Things like this. And I asked that question to myself a little bit earlier. I was watching this TV show, and it escapes me what the name is, but there's like this huge, like 9-foot dark silhouette figure. It was like a paranormal TV show. And I was thinking, could Bigfoots be ghosts when they pass on? I mean, is that a possibility? Everything's on the table. We need to just take it all in and just decipher for ourselves, because we all have a different perspective of how the world really works.
On a similar note, where you talked about it all being linked, you had Thomas Winterton as a guest on your show recently from Skinwalker Ranch, and that's a place which has had all different manner of weird stuff going on, like UFOs, the cryptids, the what you could call demons or whatever, and like that's all in one place. So what I wanted to sort of get your take on Skinwalker Ranch and what you think might be happening there.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable location. I would like to mention that there are multiple places like Skinwalker Ranch where you're just having a hot spot of UFO encounters, ghost encounters, cryptids, weird anomalies. This is happening across the planet. However, Skinwalker Ranch is getting the attention that I truly believe it deserves. Are we going to get disclosure from the government? Truly, I don't think so. But I do think so. I do think that we will be getting disclosure from a place such as Skinwalker Ranch, where it's being taken seriously, where you're having scientists doing the research. And on top of that, you have a TV show that is getting that information out there. Now, people might disagree, stating, oh, they're just money grabbers. That's why they have this whole TV show, blah, 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 whatever. I don't care. The point is they are getting this topic out there to the public. If they didn't have a TV show, people wouldn't know about it, or places similar to it. And then maybe there won't be any type of disclosure because they have recorded what Travis Taylor would describe as UAPs. They believe that they potentially caught a wormhole. They've caught orbs on camera and they've released it to the public, to people like you and me. And now we also hear people state, oh, well, the TV show, it has so many cuts, right? Like what ended up on the chopping table, like what didn't make the cut for the TV show, or they didn't do enough tests and blah, 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 whatever. Well, Brandon Fugel has heard these complaints and he said, okay, all the several cameras that I have on Skinwalker Ranch, I will make those cameras available to the public. The same thing that Eric Bard sees, we will give the public an opportunity to see it as well. Now, yes, it is a membership. Yes, it's $10 a month. You do get a 7-day free trial. But the point being is, money aside, Brandon Fugel truly believes that all the information should be transparent. All the things that they catch on the ranch needs to be given to the public. There are no secrets. There are no, oh, I'm going to keep this for later or for the government because, you know, they're going to pay me a little bit better than the public, right? For instance, and then that's not true. So I think that a place like Skinwalker Ranch, it's insane. It deserves all the attention that it's getting, but that there are other places like this that are getting all of these weird things that truly people can't really explain.
I must say, the Hunt for the Skinwalker book, I'd heard about Skinwalker Ranch years ago, and I bought the book, Hunt for the Skinwalker, and it's an amazing book. And I was thinking, Christ, what have they been putting in there? And like you say, the TV programs, what have they cut and we're not seeing? What's not in the book? Now, I was listening to Somewhere in the Skies podcast, Ryan Sprague, and he was talking to Con Keller and
George Knapp.
George Knapp, yeah. About Skinwalker Ranch, and they're saying that everything that they found out is in that book. So everything that was going on, NIDS related, because Brandon Fugel is a billionaire, I understand, if I'm not mistaken, and the previous owner of Skinwalker Ranch was Robert Bigelow. Neither of them, and Robert Bigelow's a billionaire as well, they don't need the money. Absolutely. So when you were talking about the TV show, yes, it's about ratings and all that kind of stuff. And I think sometimes they get you on a little hook, but that's TV programs. But they're definitely not in it for the money. Robert Bigelow, with his NIDS team and what they were studying there, I just wonder if any other information that he held back, any photos, because I've seen some of the photos when Robert Bigelow owned the property, and they're amazing. Some of the lights that were going on. And you mentioned other ranches as well. We were fortunate enough to speak to John Edmunds of Stardust Ranch. And that's another ranch that's almost like Skinwalker Ranch, even on acid. That's a crazy place. I don't know if you know much about Stardust Ranch, but John claims to have killed 19 aliens with a samurai sword.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty BA, man.
Yeah.
But he has proof. DNA evidence
with proof.
One of the bodies that he killed.
You talked about some of the other places that are similar. Do you want to talk about some of those? Because Skinwalker's the one that gets all the attention. There's no doubt
exactly.
About
it is the star, right? Because again, it has that TV show and it has a team that's really doing the scientific research. But yes, there are other locations, such as Blind Frog Ranch, also has a TV show, and in around the same area, the Uinta Basin in Utah. You have Bradshaw Ranch in Sedona, Arizona. You have the Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts. And now that location is Skinwalker on steroids. That place is crazy with the amount of documented alleged reports that have happened there, more than any of the previous ranches that I just mentioned. But they're even in places such as Romania, the Hoia Baciu Ranch. And I don't think I pronounced that correctly, so please forgive me. But it is continuous across the planet that we are seeing these hubs, these hotspots of where you're getting UFO sightings. You're getting things that are rather paranormal. You're getting cryptid sightings. You're getting missing time. People believe they are seeing portals opening and closing, things entering and exiting portals, right? So this seems like it's not just one place. We're getting them everywhere. And there needs to be more research done. Another person or another location would be the Meadow Project, written by Trey Hudson. And he believes, and his team believe, that they have encountered places like Skinwalker Ranch in and around the Appalachian Mountains, right near Georgia and stuff like that, where they encountered what they believed to be a portal, where they encountered an entity that didn't really seem fully human. Now, Trey Hudson is someone that I definitely recommend that people speak to, because he has a really fascinating story from his research of looking at these hotspot places in and around the United States that are very similar to Skinwalker Ranch. Very cool stuff.
Yeah, it is very fascinating. And the Hunt for the Skinwalker book, it was a proper page turner. It was like, what? This is insane. There's like a wolf that can't be shot, and then there's orbs, and then there's all sorts of weird stuff happening. What was the first thing that really took your interest and you thought, right, this is a direction I'm going to go in? What particular point in your life, what happened? Did you see something on TV, an actual like UFO? Because you talked about a paranormal experience, but what was a UFO experience, or maybe a point in your timeline that you've gone, right, this is me?
So I've always been exposed to the UFO and paranormal phenomenon. Like, my dad was a really big fan of The Twilight Zone. Love that TV show with all of my heart. So for him, it was never really a question. When him and I used to hike around the park, I would see these like holes inside of trees, right? And I would say, Dad, do fairies live there? Are fairies real? And he would say, yes, but they don't want you to see them, so they're hiding from you. And this was consistent through all of these mystical creatures that I would ask my dad about. Fairies, leprechauns. I used to live in Ireland, so I used to force my dad to drive to the end of the rainbow so I could see a leprechaun. Luckily, he loved me, so he would do it. And of course, we would never get to the end of the rainbow. Never, ever, ever. But he always invited that curiosity of the things that we would classify as the unknown, of, yes, they are real, but they just don't want you to see them. Or, yes, they are real, but they're hiding from you. And he never really like pushed in the sense of like reading fairy tale books, or he didn't really tell me stories. But when I did ask, he never denied it. And I think that's very important as a parent or as an adult when you're dealing with children, of you never want to crush their dreams or their imagination. You don't necessarily need to tell them, no, it's not true, but you don't also have to lie and say, well, yes, and they're everywhere and they're magical, blah, blah, blah. So having that middle path, I think, is very important for children, because they're going to carry that for the rest of their lives. And when we are small, I'm about like 4 or 5, we hit that why stage. Mommy, why is the sun yellow? Why is the grass green? Why do fish need to live in water? And when you're a parent, that can be like a horrible time. When your kids just keep asking why, and you're just like, it just is. It just is. I don't know why. Stop asking me questions. And while the adult might be incredibly frustrated with this. For the child, that affects them for the rest of their lives, where they stop asking questions at school. When they become an adult, they just pretend that they know everything because they're scared of that rejection of asking why as to what happened to them as a child. And the subconscious level, we carry so many traits, so many habits, so many memories from our childhood that we may not remember at that moment, but we can trail back to it if we try hard enough. And like, well, the reason to why I don't like pickles is because I was forced to eat one when I was 4 years old by my mother, right? For instance. And by the way, I can't stand pickles. I think pickles are disgusting. Okay.
Definitely.
but that's merely an example. So when we're asking this why question, we need to continue that through our adulthood. And so I was very lucky to have parents that didn't really attempt to say, stop asking me questions, or stop trying to find the magic when there isn't any. Because for adults, we don't perceive the magic the same way we did as children. We think that we can explain everything away and it's super easy. And we, like I said at the beginning, we lose that curiosity that we had as children. And that's devastating. That is so heart-wrenchingly painful to start seeing in black and white instead of in color. So for my interest, I've always had it. It's never changed, and I'm hoping that I never lose it because it makes life that much more fun.
By your own admittance, you're quite new to sort of the YouTube side of it. You're doing your own sort of content, doing your own shows. In the past couple of years, you have sort of had quite a high-profile rise to your shows and your sort of your public profile, which has been awesome to see. 'Cause I think I first saw your name on a debrief article probably about a year ago, or maybe a bit longer than that. And then obviously the shows that have come out. And you've had some big guests, like you talked like Lou Elizondo. You co-host the show with Jimmy Church. Just wanted to ask you what it's been like, sort of this sort of last couple of years, where it sort of has gone pretty high profile for yourself.
When I first started, I was painfully nervous. I would sweat through an entire t-shirt in an hour for like I still do that. I'm still always nervous. So I'm like messing up. But when I first started, it was so out of my comfort zone. It was so incredibly painful mentally. But I find this topic so truly important to bring it to people of my generation, to get them interested in it, that I had to persevere. I didn't really have a choice. Now, while I also struggle with verbal dyslexia, I have a lot of, speech issues, and I've had to overcome that in my time of podcasting because that's what you do. You have to speak it out. and that just added to my intense nerves when I first started. And it was difficult, but I think through my enthusiasm, people were able to see past my flaws, were able to see past my issues of trying to communicate and saying, look, this person's truly interested. This person really wants to get involved in the field. And then I became good friends with Jimmy Church through Micah Hanks, one of the co-founders of The Debrief. And I forgot how it happened, but I think what happened with Micah is he was really good friends with Jimmy. And I was like, yeah, I'm a really big fan of Jimmy Church. I love his show. I've listened to it for years. And Micah's like, oh, that's super cool. And then Jimmy sent me a message saying, hey, I see you're going to talk to my best friend, Micah. Like, can I join in? I'm like, absolutely, you can. I don't care. And then we kind of just hit it off from there. We became really good friends. And he's also been a big mentor for me in the sense of learning how to podcast, learning to have that sense of confidence as well, because this has really been a huge learning curve that we simply do not learn in school, of how to interview, how to listen. That is key. How to listen is so important. We don't learn that. We learn to speak. That's it. Not to listen, not to take notes, not to pay attention. So Jimmy has been incredibly helpful in the sense of learning how to podcast, and also the equipment to get as well, how to look professional. If you act the part, you will be the part. But the biggest thing is to feel confident in yourself. When I first started, I was trying to be someone of like, I know exactly what I'm talking about. And I was so new to the field. I'm like, I know literally nothing. I know literally nothing. But I'm going to sit here and be like, I'm very confident that I know what I'm saying. And that wasn't the case. So now when I make a mistake, I have no issues in saying so. I'm like, yeah, I have no idea. I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, can you repeat that? And that genuineness shows, and I think people appreciate that a lot more than pretending to be somebody that you're not. And I think that in this world that we live in, of having all of these different masks, right? When I talk to my mom, I'm going to be like this. When I talk to my best friend, I'm going to be like this. When I'm in public, I'm going to be like this, right? But I think that when we take a step back and we realize, why are we doing this? Why are we truly doing what we're doing? It makes it a little bit easier to put yourself out there, but it's still hard.
Awesome. So what's next for Christina? Got anything in the plans for this year or beyond?
I really hope I can sleep a little bit more, just a tad. That'd be great. All the work I do, 3 shows a week, plus having a full-time job, plus being a full-time student, sleep is really not an option. So I have to wear like extra makeup to like hide how sleepy I am, because I don't want people to be like, oh my God, is she a zombie? Like, what the heck? So makeup is becoming a good friend of mine. But as for what the future holds, sticking to all of my shows, still being on KUNX, and saving up as absolutely much as I can to go ahead and buy an RV so I'm able to travel the United States, hit all the hot spots, and to vlog it, right? To take my audience with me of seeing all the weird and strange things that the world has to offer. So that's been my dream. That's what I'm hitting for, and hopefully in a year or less, I'd be able to get it and take everyone with me.
That's a great dream. That is living the dream, isn't it? That's awesome.
Seriously, like I get to see all different landscapes, eat ramen all day, every day, right? Because you have like a really tiny kitchen, so you can't make like a gourmet Thanksgiving dinner or anything like that. But I'm okay with that because I love noodles with all of my heart.
Cool. So where can our listeners find your shows and more about you?
You can find me on my website at strangeparadigms.com, where you can find literally all of my show archives, guest appearances, social media links, and so much more. Or you can follow me on Twitter at eyes_on_the_skies for all of my updates and news.
Brilliant. Oh yeah, thanks Christina again for chatting to us. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me on.
Pursuit of the Paranormal with Ash and Greg.